Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out today, and I love seeing these sheriffs here. And you are a great speaker, by the way. This is the second time I've gotten to hear it. Let's give her a hand. I can say that I was an integral part in the county that I live in getting a constitutional sheriff elected. We just got one put out, and we got a constitutional sheriff in, and I'm very grateful for the sheriffs that are standing up and actually doing their jobs. And a lot of people don't understand that that is the final authority in our county. That's the authority that we all have to report to when we are going to decide to stand up as a people and push back against this tyranny that we are living in. I don't stress out a lot about where we're at today. I actually am very confident that we will prevail. I'm confident because if God be for us, who can be against us? It's very simple. I was asked to talk about history. We talk about the Constitution all the time, and I really do think that our children are not getting the education that they deserve in our government-run school system. I highly encourage you as parents to make sure that you are properly educating your children, even if you do send them to the government-run schools. Make sure you're doing your job at home because they're not being taught truth. Our government was founded on a principle that is being forgotten. One of the things that our infamous current president said back in 2008, and I concur with him wholeheartedly, there's just a group of us out here that are clinging to our guns and our religion. A lot of people ask me, they say, well, you're a pastor, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, and you shouldn't be out there in activism, and you certainly shouldn't be getting arrested at the Capitol. And so they ask me, why are you doing this? And I tell them, well, when I go back and look at history, I see the ministers at the front of the battle of 1776. They called them the Black Robe Brigade. Because if pastors aren't standing for liberty, I promise you there will be no liberty. I firmly believe, and you can take it how you want, that the problem in this country is that the church has gone silent. I firmly believe that the problem is the pulpit that are pandering to the tithe base and are a corporation instead of servants. And so I am going to fight. And when I went and I studied this and I researched it, I thought it best to let our forefathers speak for themselves. And I'm going to give you some quotes throughout this speech. The first one I want to say is this. It is when people forget God that tyrants forge their chains. And I'm not going to get into what you believe here. If you want to talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, I'll be more than welcome to do that with you after the message. But I'm going to tell you, if you look at the history of this nation over the last 50 years, there has been a rise up against God. There has been a pushing out, an uninviting of God in our nation. And I'm going to tell you, our founding fathers knew that the Constitution would only work with a Christian people. That's what they knew. They knew that to be true because Christians are self-governing. Benjamin Franklin said, man will ultimately be governed by God or by tyrants. You see, the Constitution is diametrically connected to the belief in God and Jesus Christ. Without one, you cannot have the other. Patrick Henry said it cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians. Not by religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. For this very reason, peoples of other faiths have been afforded asylum, prosperity, and freedom of worship here in our nation. That's what Patrick Henry said. These are the things that Benjamin Franklin said. These are people that penned the Constitution. We often tell people, shall not be infringed. We're waiving our constitutions. But we have too many today that are doing that, but telling God He's not welcome. That's going to be a problem, folks. Here's what John Hancock said. He was the first signer of the Declaration of Independence. Resistance to tyranny becomes the Christian and social duty of each individual.
Amen.
Continue steadfast and, with a proper sense of your dependence on God, nobly defend those rights which heaven gave and no man ought to take from us.
Right.
John Adams said it this way: we have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Ambition, revenge, and gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a well goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Folks, if we're going to go into battle and we're going to stand up and we're going to take our nation back, God must be leading us. I see no other way to do it. Now, I am going to tell you, if we're not going to do that as a nation, then we have to make another choice. If we're going to choose not to be a Christian nation, which we have a right to do, by the way, what role is government going to play in our life? Because when the Christians step back and a void becomes available, something is going to fill that void. And so we had better start deciding as Christians how we want our government to operate if we are going to be in a nation that is not going to be a Christian nation. Samuel Adams said, if you love wealth greater than liberty, the tranquility of servitude greater than the animating consent for freedom, go home, leave us in peace. I concur with that. He says, we seek not your counsel nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. We need more men and women saying that today.
Yep.
These aren't things we're used to hearing today, is it? We have forgotten history and the blood of those that have gone before us, because we often talk about the soldiers, and I love what the sheriff said about that, how we should lay flowers on their graves. And we should remember them, I believe, in our tables at dinner time. But I think we often forget not only did they fight for freedom, but they fought for the gospel. They did. I can tell you that 98% of the soldiers that gave their life knew our God intimately. And so it's with this mindset that I go forward and I fight this battle. And I pray for these sheriffs. And I can tell you under no circumstances will I stand down. Will I capitulate? Will I consent to the tyranny that we live in today? But it's not going to be enough for these sheriffs or myself or the 50 people that are standing here today. We have to educate. We have to be willing to speak the truth in a void of darkness. We have to, quite frankly, be willing to be arrested on the Capitol steps. But more importantly, we have to be willing to come together with a common goal for the common good of all people, whether they be Christian or not. Because if we do not, government will do it for us. God bless you, and thank you for coming out.